On February 26th, in so-called Black History Month, on Savior's Day for the Nation of Islam, where they celebrate Fard Muhammad's birthday. But it just strikes me today to do this recording to clear up some things about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. My thoughts on the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Right. This whole trope that people still run with today about the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, this trope about him having intercourse, having sexual relations with underage girls and getting them pregnant. This is a lie that Malcolm X spread, right? This is a lie Malcolm X spread. He got up in front of the cameras after the fallout in the Nation of Islam, where he had basically, disobeyed his orders from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to not speak on the Kennedy assassination that took place in 1963. But prior to that time, these rumblings were going on in the Nation of Islam, rumblings, rumors, and talks about young women who've had sexual relations with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and who he had fathered children with, and how, his morality was being attacked by certain people, not many, because I want you to keep in mind that, and you research this, that was already known. All that was the talk for years. How black people are, gossip, no matter whether they was Muslim or not. It was always talk about Elijah Muhammad and his secretaries. That really wasn't a issue. People in the streets knew about that, about Elijah Muhammad and his secretaries. See, nothing stays secret amongst so-called black people. That was a known thing. It wasn't. It just wasn't internationally known like that. Like how it got spread all over the newspapers and things like that. That was hood news. That was hood news amongst, in areas where the black Muslims were, and just regular black people. Everybody knew about Elijah Muhammad or had heard about that. Nobody made a big deal out of it. Reason being is because these were young women, not young underage women. This is an older man, a powerful man, a wealthy man, a respected man, doing what powerful, wealthy, respected men do. They have sex with women, beautiful young women. Yes, they do. There's nothing wrong with that. It is nothing wrong with a healthy heterosexual man, right? A healthy heterosexual man having sex with young women, not underage women. I want to make this clear, not underage women. Young women. There's nothing wrong with that. If you are of age, 18 and over, then there's nothing wrong with men. I don't care how old they are. That's on the discretion of the woman. There's nothing wrong with that woman having or entering into a consensual relationship with an older man. See, once she's over 18 years old, certain people might disapprove of it because of the age gap, but that's people's opinion. Once a woman gets to an age where she's consenting age to have sexual relations, 18 and over, then it is what it is. She can go on and do that if she wants to. She's not doing anything wrong. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't do anything wrong by having sexual relations with these women. He's a man. Elijah Muhammad is a man, a heterosexual man. And what I know as a heterosexual man is that heterosexual men who are men of means, who are men of influence, men of power, they will tend to desire other women. And it is understood even by the women who are their wives, who they have children with. They know that their men going to have other women. They know that. They know that that man is not going to be confined to one woman. That's just the reality of things. You got guys out here, men out here who ain't got no kind of means or any of that, and they have other women on the side. American indigenous men, bronze American indigenous men, bronze first American men have always had extra relationships with women. We've always had extra relationships with women. Ain't no bronze man out there, American men out there who going to say that he hasn't had an extra woman. Those of you had your father around, you know your daddy had another woman, granddaddy had other women, your father had women. My father had plenty of women. You see, I've had plenty of women. That's just being a heterosexual man. And somehow that is demonized for some reason. That is demonized. You see, they speaking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's personal life. You know, I never understood what people were so bent out of shape about that. Why they were so bent out of shape. I could see if the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was engaging in some male on male activity or took some man's wife or was touching little children. I could see that readily, people being or actually dealing with underage girls. You know what I'm saying? But that's not the case. You know how you know that's a lie spread by Malcolm X, made up by him? Because the FBI, CIA, they had the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's homes bugged, right? They had his women's homes bugged. They had spies in the government from the Nation of Islam. They did. That's why I said people knew about that. The government knew about Elijah Muhammad's extramarital affairs. They knew about that. So you really think that if they had knowledge of this, they wouldn't have sent in the police, the local police and all of them to arrest Elijah Muhammad for illicit activity? Like I said, that would have been a wet dream for them to bring down the black Muslim leader, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, for having intercourse with underage girls. Do you know that would have been a feather in that cap, and they would have used that to crush the nation? This man's a pedophile and everything else. That's what they would have did if that was real. That's how you know it's not real. That's how you know that was manufactured by Malcolm X, that whole underage girl thing. And you could tell he was told to say that. Y'all look at Malcolm X as a saint, man, but he wasn't a saint, not at all. He was more of a sinner because he wanted Elijah Muhammad's place. Y'all find it hard to think that this man sat here for the time he was in the nation, 12 years, and watched Elijah Muhammad grow wealthy, grow richer, have, the finer things in life for his family, living in mansions, him having access to women. This man sat by and watched that for years, being damn near the number two to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Well, I ain't gonna say he was the number two, he was a spokesman, but he watched and sat by and watched the influence of this man who saved his life. Malcolm X came into the Nation of Islam in 1952 and he left in 1964. 12 years. And Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it was said that he looked at Malcolm X's picture when he became an inducted member, because you do know, and people tend to leave this part out, like they left out in the Malcolm X movie, because y'all listen to black ass demons like Spike Lee come up here and make Malcolm X movie and tell lies and whatnot to demonize the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, right? The people that raised Malcolm X, the people, had it not been for Elijah Muhammad, there'd be no Malcolm X. You see, people make Malcolm X into this icon and whatnot, but Malcolm X was a sellout. Just like Martin Luther King, just like Jesse Jackson, who died, he was a sellout, because when he got up there in front of those white media outlets and called his teacher and leader a pedophile, because that's basically what he was saying. He was dealing with underage girls, and then he went up there and did that and lied, knowing damn well Elijah Muhammad didn't have no sex with no underage girls and impregnate no underage girls. Like I said, I've been debunked that, because the FBI stayed monitoring his house. They got a book I purchased from Carly Vance about the rise and fall of Elijah Muhammad, even though he never fell. They detailed in that book about how the FBI had transcripts of him going back and forth arguing with his women, like men do. Y'all don't be Elijah Muhammad. They had recordings of him arguing with his women, the young women. You see? Not once did they say, oh, this is, this man's dealing with underage girls. Oh, they would have been doing the damn Birdman hand rub. Malcolm X made that up. He lied. And like I said, I proved to you logically that he made up this lie about Elijah Muhammad having children with underage girls. Because whenever somebody want to slander and bring up Elijah Muhammad's name, they point to that lie that Malcolm X told. They do that as a way to demonize the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and anglicize and make Malcolm X look angelic when it's actually the other way around. Because for you to sit up here and lie on your teacher, the one who raised you, and get on the white man's TV, who you at one point referred to as the devil, and demonize your teacher, that's despicable. That is despicable. So I had to drop this message or my little 10 cents in it for 10 minutes and go on about this to clear the air of a good man, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, on Savior's Day. Out.